so excited. So Dennis, I saw your note in the email that I send out at the bottom of the newsletter are the links.
I looked all the way to the bottom and I did not see any link for the Zoom link. It just said,
Okay. Well, all right. I will double check that before I send it out. So, welcome
unless you
everyone.
sent it, I mean, let me look at,
Take a look and see if you don't see it. I'll
Timber.
double check all of that.
It's not at the very bottom. It's kind of in the middle.
It's in the middle. Okay. Maybe I should move it to the very bottom. It's easier to find. Welcome. It's Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. And we are here with the Improvising Harpist PlayShop. We've got some fun stuff planned for tonight and some fun things. I'm looking forward to the rest of the year. I've got some ideas for some things I want to do. I'm actually going to finish my book this year. And I've got a new class that I'm working on that I'll tell you about in just a second. And Candace, yes, you raise your hand.
I just wanted to let people know or remind you, there's a posting in our group. Cheryl Ann Fulton, the harpist, is going to be offering a modes class. It's medieval modes. It's not harp specific this time. I've taken some of her shorter, different modes classes, and they're kind of mind-blowing because we're talking about historical modes and not like white notes on the piano. But take a look at her handout that's in our group on Facebook and see if that's something that appeals to you. I'm going to be there, and it might give you some extra things to work with. Really good for healing harpists.
Nice. Thank you for that. That'll be great. I'll have to look and see if I can come to that myself. That would be fun. Okay. So by special request, we're going to do more playing this year. Our next session is going to be a practice session. So I want to encourage you and everybody else who's listening later to be thinking about what you would like to be working on, and then be prepared to share some with everybody else. If you need ideas for what to do, what to work on, we can definitely talk about that at the beginning of the session. But a lot of people said, hey, I need focused practice time. So we're going to do that. We're going to give everybody a container, a space to play in. And we'll do it with microphones off, but kind of like study hall, where everybody's working on their own thing, but we're all working together. And we'll do a little bit of that tonight as well.
Can we send paper airplanes across the room?
Absolutely. Especially if it's got sheet music that you no longer need. You can fold up your sheet music. Send that across. Oh, and a special note to Davey. Did I send you an email about your harps? Did I say yes? Let's get together. Did you get that? Or I might have.
Yes, you did.
Okay, great.
Yesterday, but I just discovered it an hour or so ago, so I wrote you back on it.
Okay, great.
Just briefly.
I wanted to make sure that I had. Sometimes I write emails in my head and then I don't actually send them, so I want to make sure that I got that off to you. All right, so let's get started. Tonight I talked about the joy of just playing, letting loose and experimenting. That's the title of tonight's PlayShop. And before we let loose and experiment, I want to talk about this idea of letting loose and experimenting, because a lot of people come to improvisation with the idea that they should just, somebody somewhere along the way has said, well, all you have to do is just let loose and play. And if you've ever gotten that instruction and then wondered, what the heck am I supposed to do with that? You are not alone. It's not really enough instruction. It's not really, I'm going to mute a couple people here, quick. So the letting loose and just playing part comes after you have developed some skills and figured out what you're doing. So we're going to do a little bit of both. A lot of you have been here for a while, and oh gosh, got lots of new people coming tonight. So we're going to talk about some ways to let loose and some ways to experiment. So it's not just, I mean, it could, let me make sure I mean, it could just be this. That is improvisation. Nobody's written that before. I just made something up. And there is a whole world of what's called unstructured improvisation where that is a thing. And I just did a bunch of that when I was in Colorado last month. So I'm going to encourage you to do that. But I know for a lot of you, what you really want is to make something sound beautiful. And you want to be able to sit down and just play at your harp and make something beautiful happen. That's what a lot of people tell me. And that's what I wanted for myself too. And I didn't want to just sit down and play. I wanted to just sit down and play something beautiful. So how do we get to that point? How do we let loose and just experiment and come up with something beautiful? Well, fortunately, we play a beautiful instrument, and there aren't really very many wrong notes. It's much more difficult to do this on the piano or a flute or a violin or whatever that's got lots more notes available to us than the harp. So,
Simba, is it okay
yes.
if I pin you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we've talked about this before, but I just want to remind you that if you're just getting started with improvisation and you want to make something beautiful, we're in the key of C tonight, you can just play the white strings. Accidentally tossed in a red note there. So there's actually quite a bit going on in there what I was just playing. So I am just playing the white strings. But underneath that is a rhythm. Ba 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 ba. So if you read music, that's eighth, eighth quarter, eighth, eighth quarter, eighth, eighth quarter, eighth, eighth quarter. And I'm using that as a fundamental rhythm of what I'm doing. Where did that come from? It came from all the exercise books that I play out of all the time. I really encourage you. My favorite exercise book is the Deborah For You Speed and Agility book. It's got a yellow cover. I don't think I have it handy here. But you may, if you don't have that, but you have another exercise book, exercise books are great sources. Oh, Karen is holding it up, Karen Hall. Holding it up there with the yellow cover. It's kind of, if you're a pianist and you've played Hanon exercises, the Hanon exercises of the harp. So that rhythm is something that is very common in my exercise book. So it's something that's in my fingers and just, I want to say it just came to me, but it's there because I've played it so many times. So I've got it in muscle memory. So let's do that a little bit together. You're doing it on your, with your microphones off, but try this rhythm. Da, 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 da. It doesn't have to be that fast, but it can be. And I'm also, just for now, I'm playing only the string that's next to it. So I'm not hopping around all over the harp right now. I'm just some repeated notes, but oh, that's breaking my rule there. So this is a way you can experiment with rhythm a little bit and experiment with sound a little bit and still have something that sounds beautiful. Okay, in this I call it white string conversation, where I'm playing something like a question to myself, then I'm playing an answer. In this,
June has a question.
yes, hang on one second, then I'll answer. I'll take your question. The tonal center when you're playing the white strings is G. So if you want to start, you want to make it sound like it's got some shape and body to it, you can start and end on a G. Okay, June.
Can you refresh my memory? Is that a pentatonic scale or not?
Yes.
It is. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Just the white strings.
Just the white strings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Yep. Somebody else had a question? Okay. So, but a pentatonic scale, as I've learned, just means 5 notes. There are all kinds of pentatonic scales. So this is just one type of pentatonic scale. It's not the only pentatonic scale. So it just means a scale made up of 5 notes. Okay, so when I talk about, I'm writing my cookbook. Some of you know about this. I'm calling it the cookbook. It's the Improvising Harpist cookbook. And the things that you need in your pantry to improvise are some of the things we're going to talk about here tonight. Having a scale to work with is one of the ingredients. It could be another scale, could be a C scale, could be a D scale, could be a minor scale, could be a melodic minor scale. You know, you can choose lots of different scales. But tonight, for now, just in this moment, we're doing this G pentatonic scale. You want to have another thing that you need in your pantry of improvisation is some sort of rhythm. And that means choosing some sort of, for now, means choosing some sort of time signature. So that could be a 3/4 time, it could be a 4/4 time, you could be 5/4. You could do crazy time signatures. You don't have to stick within just 3/4, 4/4. But when you're first getting started, I recommend you do. It's easier. But if you drift out of that, that's cool. That's cool too. Then you want to have, at least to begin with, some kind of rhythmic structure, like what I've just been doing, this 8th, 8th quarter, 8th, 8th quarter, 8th, 8th quarter, 8th, 8th quarter. And then you want to set a timer, which I'm not going to do here in class, but I do recommend you do that. And set the timer for something that feels just a little bit longer than you think you can do. So if you're like a little nervous about this, set it for 2 minutes. But if you're feeling a little more confident, set it for 5 minutes. If you've been doing this for a while, set it for 20 minutes. And push yourself to keep playing, even if you play the same thing over and over and over again. Because eventually you're going to play something different. You're going to go, oh, I like that. That's really cool. I really like that. So you need what Victor Wooten calls a groove. In classical music, we call it the pulse, but it's the underlying beat. And another piece to this is some kind of, again, this is just for now, some kind of structure where you've got maybe 4 measures at a time, groups of 4, groups of 8. This is, again, going to make it sound beautiful and sound like it's got some structure to it. Later on, as you become more comfortable, more experienced with it, you may just let go of that. But for now, like if you're to listen to some of the stuff that I've recorded on my podcast, which is a music only podcast called Relaxing Harp Music, excuse me, you'll hear me moving from different time signatures, or sometimes I'll have 5 measures or 6 measures of something, because at that point I'm playing what I feel and not sticking strictly to some kind of musical idea. But when you're first getting started with this, I recommend that you stick to a little bit of structure, because it's easier. Okay, so let's go back and play this a little bit more. So now I've got a rhythmic structure. So now I've just done a group of 4. So here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, here's 4. Don't be afraid of repeating yourself. You can repeat yourself lots and lots and lots. Music is repetition with variation to it. So I played a variation of the thing that I played the first time. It's an improvisation on an improvisation. Oops. Now I'm throwing in a little bit different. I'm still sticking with that ba ba ba, but now I'm throwing in some 16th notes, but still sticking to my fundamental underlying structure, which is just for purposes of demonstration, I keep landing back on this G as an ending note. That's a tonal center. You don't have to do that, but if you want to make it feel complete, that's an easy way to do it. So I made notes of what I was going to talk about, and I'm not doing anything like this, but I want to talk a little bit about, oh yeah, I'll get to these things. This is good stuff. Oh, I'm just doing it out of order. I've made a little handout. I'll send this out to everybody as we're done, when I get done. So I want to talk a little bit more about this exploration piece, and then I want to ask some questions for you. So when we're dealing with these 5 notes, first of all, the nice thing is they all go nicely together. So there's no wrong notes. And that's the big worry when people first start improvising is, what if I play something wrong? But when you're playing these 5 notes, there are no wrong notes and they all go together. So you don't have to end on the G, the tonal center, but you can if you're feeling like you want it to sound like solid and complete. But within these 5 notes, we have a bunch of other colors that I want to point out to you. So we have a true G chord here. We have G, B, and D. We also have the relative minor of G, which is the E minor. E, G. I haven't even played around with that yet. But we have also the hint of an A chord. We have A and E. There's no C, so we don't know if it's major or minor, so it could be either or both. We have B, D, and G. So this is a B, D is a G inverted chord. But you also have B, D, and E, which could be part of an E minor 7 chord. Okay, and then we've got a D chord here. We don't know if it's major or minor because we're leaving out the F. And then we've got the E minor again. So there are 3 really important chords here that are happening. We've got the G chord is really important because that's the tonal center, and all 3 notes of the G chord are there. We have the E minor, which is the relative minor. It's the 6th of the G. And we have this D here. And the D is the 5 of the G. And it's in classical terminology, it's the dominant, which leads back to the G. So we do this. So this is going to lead us to the next type or next layer or of improvisation that we can do. So what I was doing earlier is just 1 note at a time here. Very satisfying, and you can do it down here, of course. When you get down here, it can get muddy. But now let's say I want to create some chords in my left hand and some of this single note stuff in the right hand. So again, you have these choices. You can play this G chord. E minor. Then the D. Back to G. E minor, D, back to G. In the right hand, I'm just playing these single notes that we started out with. In the left hand, I could play the triad to the E minor triad. Then I'm going to the D, but because I'm leaving out the F, I'm going to do D, A, D. And the ear wants to hear that as an F sharp because we're in the key of G, but it's just hinted at. And then I'm going to switch to playing G, D, G in the left hand. So I'm playing a 4-2-1 pattern here. Let's see. Let's see if I can get my pattern back. There we go. No. There we go. That's it. 8/8 quarter. okay if you accidentally toss in a C or an F. And that's something that's really important about improvisation is rhythm is more important than notes. Rhythm is more important than notes. Your ear will forgive a bad note far, far faster than it will forgive a bad rhythm. If you keep everything in rhythm, you keep everything, this is why your teachers, your piano teachers, your band teacher, whatever, keep going. Just keep going, don't stop. Same thing here. Keeping that underlying pulse, that underlying groove, that underlying rhythm, keeping that going so that if you accidentally hit a note you're not really wanting, it's going to disappear very quickly into the rhythm. But if you've ever been to a beginning piano recital where the kids play, they stop and play and stop and play and stop, that's the kind of like herky-jerky thing that can disrupt the improvisation. So far more important. And that's why another thing you need in your pantry of improvisation is a metronome or a drum school app or an iReal Pro app or a something app that you can work with that keeps the rhythm going for you. Tonight we're just doing it on our own. Well, I might bust mine out here if we need it in a minute. Let's see, it's not the rhythm that I started with. There we go. Just like that. Okay. Stop there for a second and refer back to my notes, which I'll send out to you. So one of the next things that you should have in your pantry is some emotion. Have some emotion in your pantry. When you sit down to play something, you sit down to improvise, you want to sit down and you just want to play something. One of the ways to access that is to think about what emotion would you like to convey? Happiness, which is kind of what we're doing right here. Sadness, distress, joy, darkness, lightness. What kinds of emotions do you want to convey? Music is the language of emotion. Music conveys emotion in a organized way. So let's play around with that a little bit. You can pop something in the notes here. You can give me an emotion. And let's try something. Put that in the chat.
Anxiety.
Anxiety, sorrow. Okay, let's do some sorrow, then we'll do some anxiety. Or do some anxiety, and then we'll do some sorrow. Okay, so the pentatonic scale, by its nature, is not really that anxious. But let's see if we can get a little anxiety out of it. If not, I have a plan for this. So we've got these notes. It might be too happy. Okay. I think that to get to real anxiety, we need a diminished chord. So we'll come back to this pentatonic in just a second. We can do some sorrow for sure with the pentatonic scale. but I'm going to go to the key of C now. So we're doing we're going to add back the C and the F to what we're playing here, and our tonal center is going to move to C. Actually, it's going to move to B. So the 7th note of the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7th note is the most anxious note in the scale. I mean, there are other scales that we can do on the piano, or other. The one who wants to return home. Like, hey, I'm lost in the woods. And if we play a chord based on this, now we're really anxious. We got some really anxious stuff going on. Now, how do I know this? Well, because I've been playing around with these chords for a long time. And the chord that is built on the 7th note of the scale on the harp is a diminished chord, and it's I think this is what, well, this for sure, this B to F, this is a tritone. This is a French police car. There's a reason why we use this, because it is jarring to the nervous system. This is why we use it as an alert. A lot of train whistles use these notes to let you know that they're coming across the tracks. Okay. So this is a different, June, you were asking about pentascales, pentatonic scale. This is a different one. This is just a B, C, D, E, F. And I'm going to do. It doesn't land. It floats. It wants to go somewhere. It's lost in the forest. I love this B diminished to represent the darkness of winter, fall, autumn contraction, leaves whirling around. Thinking of Bridget Cruz. Oh, I don't know who that is. You'll have to tell us who that is.
It's the Irish tune.
Oh, aha.
Yeah.
Okay. Using seconds here can create this anxious sound as well. I'm using a B and a C together, a minor second. Now, right now, what I'm doing is not necessarily writing some, creating a song or anything like that. Right now, I'm like, oh, what's the most anxious sound I can create out of my harp right now? This is the exploration part. And I really encourage you to give yourself permission to not play something, but just to find out, well, what do those notes sound like on the harp? If I play them all together, that's pretty anxious sounding. That's a little happier. If I return to this B as a tonal center, everything else I play. It's going to sound, it's going to come back to that place of anxiety. And then I really like tossing this low B. I've even got one down here. And I actually tuned my harp tonight before we got started. We haven't talked about the percussion of the harp, but you get to make dissonance creates a feeling of anxiety. Yeah, yes, that's right. Consonance creates the opposite of anxiety. It creates comfort, even if it's in a minor key and it's consonant, it can create comfort. We'll come back to that in a second. And the harp has a lot less dissonance naturally built into it than the piano or other instruments. So we have to work a little harder to find that in our harps. There's more consonants, more obvious consonants in the harps than in dissonance. So we've got some anxiety going on here. And then once you've played around, you're like, okay, I've got these B's here. Then we're back to what's the underlying pattern? What's the underlying rhythm? Right now, I don't have, I'm in my head, I'm thinking, do I want a 6/8? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe it's just a little there. I'm not so happy with that. So maybe it's more of a 4/4. 3, 4. I'm thinking Arvo part or Samuel Barber. Like that real empty, in a good way, empty kind of feeling, which the harp is really good at generating. Okay, so on this harp in particular, this B up here has a thunky sound to it that I've never been able to fix. I think it's actually something in the wood in the soundboard because I've changed the strings so many times and I fiddled with the levers and I cannot get this thunky sound out of the harp. But it does have a very nice dissonant sound to it because of its funkiness. Also, I would say in terms, if you're thinking sort of philosophically about anxiety, anxiety often isn't very organized. The nature of anxiety is, I feel out of control. So the music might not lend itself to something that's like fluid and moving and it may be that what it calls for is sort of a jerky, lurching kind of movement, lurching kind of sound. But when you're sitting down, you're like, I just want to play something. You might pull out your thesaurus or your dictionary or something to look for a anxious word and try to develop something around that anxious word. All right, let's talk about sorrow, which is some ways a little bit easier for me than anxiety. there's way more sorrowful songs out there to listen to and to build on. For me, the sorrow comes from the minor chords. So in the key of C, we've got an A minor, a D minor, and an E minor, and A minor again. So what came to mind for me right away when I think about sorrow is what's going on right now in California, these terrible fires, and what's I looking? Oh, yes, I'll come back to that, Joyce. Thank you for that. Let's go back to the pentatonic scale. Thank you. So here we are back in the pentatonic scale, and I am thinking about the fires in California. I have a number of friends who live in the area who are all okay, but they have friends who have lost their homes, and so I'm not, I'm 2 steps away from people who have lost everything. It's very sad. Okay, so when we're thinking about that in the context of the pentatonic scale, we're back to G as the tonal center here. And because for me, the sorrow comes from the minor, we're going to start with an E minor here. Oops. So yeah, it is harder, more challenging, but I invite you to challenge yourself. So going back to what I was talking about earlier, you've got the E minor here in the pentatonic scale. And then the 5th note of the E minor scale starts on a B. And you've got some options here to do B, D, E, B, E, G, which is an inverted E minors. You could do B, E, and A here. But I'm always going to come back to that E, because that's probably the saddest note here in this pentatonic scale. And you can just use it as a drone in the left hand. A minor is F major, then go to D minor, and yes. Sometimes it's nice to play after the A minor, F major, then go to D minor. Oh yes, yep. I'm just looking back through your notes here. So yes, so let's talk about that. Well, let's do that. So, okay, so we're going to go back to the key of C. We'll be hopping back and forth between these for a second. So let's do I like the A minor to the F myself also. So we're here back to the C. This is the relative minor C. Here's the F. So more of a lift here. Back to A minor. And I'm just playing triads here. F. Back to play in the reverse order. D minor. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. And then, oh, God, these hours go by so fast, and I'm like, oh, and then. But I know we talked about this in the past, but get yourself some dice. Because it's got 6 chords on it. You're not sure what to play, you want to experiment, you want to just let loose, roll some dice, roll 4 dice, or roll 2 dice, or however many dice you want, and play those chords. And I learned that from Stephanie Bieber, who's an improv teacher in Germany. And I said, yeah, what about the 7th? She said, oh, nobody plays the 7th. But we just spent a whole evening playing with the 7th. So you can get 7-sided dice if you're Dungeons and Dragons players. They make 7-sided die. But you can just get normal dice anywhere. And like, again, I think the hardest part about just sitting down and playing is getting started. You know, every one of you here I've known from, for a long time through the Facebook group, or some of you have been students of mine, but you're all accomplished players. You can sit down and play stuff. You all can sit down and play stuff. But if you want to sit down and explore, having a place to start from is the tricky. It's the thing that everybody forgets to do that. They're like, oh, what should I play? I even struggle with this sometimes. Like, oh, I should be playing more. What should I do? Have this. Well, when my book gets written, you'll have my book full of ideas. But I also want to recommend to you, and I am going to be teaching a class based on this later this year. This book called Being Music. I'll put a link to this in my notes. Art of Open Improvisation. Mark Miller and Art Landy. Mark is a woodwinds player. He plays. His favorite is baritone clarinet, which is wonderful, but he plays saxophone, flute, all kinds of other things. And then Art Landy is one of the top jazz piano improvisation artists. They both live in Boulder. And I was just out playing with them a couple weeks ago. But they wrote this book, and a lot of what I'm talking about is this is not a music book. There might be a little bit of notated stuff in here. Mostly this is ideas. This is an ideas book. And I'm going to be teaching a class by their invitation to teach a class based on this book later this year. But don't wait until I offer that class. So there's a lot of things, a lot of really good ideas in there. Oh, here it is. Oh, thank you. Oh, Mary put the link in the chat. Thank you. So there's emotional. Okay, so I want to stop talking for a second and ask for anybody who would like to comment or share anything that any ideas that you're like, oh, I want to do that. Anybody want to play anything? Not yet. Yes? Yes. Here, I'll send you a note so you can unmute yourself.
Oh, I had, excuse me, I had an idea. I hope someday to be a clinical musician. And I'm thinking of, so you go into a room in a hospital, and here's a very anxious patient, because who wouldn't be anxious in a hospital? And so maybe you start playing some music that has a little anxiety into it, and then resolve it into something calmer, peaceful.
Yeah, all the training that I've gotten, and lots of the folks here have had this training also, is meet the patient where they are.
Right. That's what I would think. I'm a
But
psychologist, and that's what we do in word therapy. Yeah.
yep, same thing. But as you know, you meet them where they are, they start to calm down, they shift into something else. And then as a clinical musician, you follow them musically.
Yeah.
There's
Uh-huh.
only been one time ever where I have led the patient. And I asked permission to do it before I did it. Every other time I've been playing, I follow them.
What did you lead that person from and to?
So they were, when I first started playing for them, they were anxious and upset, and so I followed them, and then they kind of got sad, so I followed them into sadness, and then they got happier, and I was like, okay, good, we're moving up out of this, and then they started getting anxious and upset again, and sad again. We're kind of in a loop
Uh-huh.
that was not resolving.
Yeah.
And I said, and I just said, hey, I feel like we're kind of going in circles here. Would it be okay if I led you to
Oh,
someplace a little bit brighter? And she said, yeah, that'd be okay. And so that's what I did.
I bet she was relieved and happy that you
Yeah.
entered that way.
Yeah. I never do that without asking permission. And like I said, I've only felt like I needed to do it once. Like we were going to continue spiraling down.
Yeah.
If I didn't step in and say, let me lift you. Can I lift you?
Uh-huh.
And so she allowed that, and I was able to do that. Yeah. Yeah, Karen.
So when, you say meet the patient where they are, how do you know where they are?
That is the whole training with International Harp Therapy Program or Harps for Healing, or the different training programs teach you.
I was just in the hospital, and so I can relate to everything that's being said, and I just wondered if someone like a harpist came in, I hadn't thought about that. What would, how would that work?
Well, if the patient is alert and able to talk, you just talk to them. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Okay. And then it kind of gives you an idea where they are.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're not, if a patient is much more severely ill, like, when my mom was dying, you don't, what do you, what do you
Well,
do?
then you talk with family members and nurses and other people around to make sure to see where they are, and if they're like, I'm not a teacher of this program, so I would point you to Christina Turin or some of the other teachers who do teach this. But the idea is to assess the situation by talking with, if the patient's not able to speak but the family wants you there, then sometimes you're playing for the family.
Okay. Wow.
And what I would do is, just check with the family, check with the nurses, see what's going on, and then if they all say, oh, just play whatever you want, then I'm going to enter very gently with probably something I'm going to start minor, honestly. I'm going to start with a D minor or an A minor, something like, because this is kind of, I'm giving you my opinion, but I encourage you to follow up with people who give this proper training. But I feel like a D minor to a C is most grounding. This is Dorian mode. So I will start with Dorian mode and see what happens, and do it very gently. If I start to the patient starts to get agitated, stop. And I'm watching very closely to see what's going on. I'm
'Cause,
not
I
just
know,
like willy-nilly playing stuff.
because I know we're getting a little over time, but have you ever been asked to play? Because I started out in the emergency room and they didn't have beds, and so I had to spend a whole night in there, which was at that place, that's an insane place. And I think, God, maybe if somebody was playing the harp, it would have made can't believe it wouldn't make a difference.
Mhm.
Does that training you took, do they address that issue of playing in an emergency room?
Sure. Yeah.
Wow. Because
Yeah.
there was a woman just wailing on and on and on, and I thought I was gonna lose my mind, and I felt bad for her, but I'm like, God, where's that harp?
Right. And it's not just the patients, it's the staff also.
Oh, gosh, no kidding.
The
Yeah.
staff need it as much or more,
Mhm.
because the
Okay.
patient might be there for a day or two, but they're in it every day, all the time, 24/7.
Yes, that's
So
a good point.
playing for the staff is
Okay.
really important. Now, you met Karen Owens, who
Mhm.
lives in she lives in the mountains in Colorado. She's been an obstetrics nurse forever, but she's taking the training, and she started out just playing in the hallways.
Interesting.
She just, and then she was playing for anybody who could hear. And in that case, she was playing just soothing music in general.
Okay.
So she wasn't playing specifically to one patient. She was
Mhm.
she was playing things that felt like they were just going to bring the whole tenor of the
Right.
ward, just like
Yeah, because
give
boy,
everybody some breathing room.
needed. Mm.
And because hospitals tend to have lots of hard surfaces, because everything's got to be cleaned all the time, that
Acoustics.
stuff echoes
Yeah.
all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
And people can hear it very far away, down the hall, around the corner, all of that. So you may think, oh, I'm just playing in the lobby, but
Yeah.
it can be heard all over the place. So yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Can I contribute something real quick?
Sure, Dennis.
A friend of mine is in the therapy type program right now, and I've kind of been with her through this journey more or less, meaning that she reports to me how things are going. But at the beginning, they wanted her to start like noodling on the harp and playing, kind of improv type stuff. And then I saw her a couple months ago, and I was totally amazed at how much she could just do now in improv that she couldn't do when she first started. So I guess what I'm saying is, it encouraged me and hopefully can encourage others that if we just keep doing this, we'll get there.
You will.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
you will. I think there's a misconception out there that you just sit down and play. And I did kind of tease you guys a little bit with that title tonight. But the truth is, you practice improvisation the same way you practice a piece that you're learning. It's just a different set of skills that you're practicing. You're practicing your modes, you're practicing your scales, you're practicing your rhythms, you're practicing all these things that somebody has written out for you in sheet music. You're developing those skills individually and then bringing them together for yourself and for the people that you're playing for. And that takes time. It's a huge body of knowledge to learn. It's really composition. You're really learning to compose. And I think of improvisation as composition in the moment. It's creating something right in the moment. And there's a dirty little secret that jazz people know, that if you hear a jazz improviser, and if you went to hear the same band every night, you would hear like the trumpet player play the same solo that they've improvised. They would play the same thing every night because they improvised it at some point, but then they learned it and memorized it. So it's not really improvisation anymore. It's composition. And we can do the same kind of thing. We can create, like I have hand patterns that I go to all the time that are comfortable, that I use a lot. but that's just because I've developed them over the years. They're things that are comfortable for me. But I like to be like, when I'm playing for you, everything I played tonight, I haven't played before. I created it in the moment, and that's what I want you all to be able to do as well. So it's like, this is why I'm calling my book the cookbook, because I want you to be cooking, to creating your own recipes, creating your own food, and I'm encouraging you to build your pantry with the exercises that I'm providing, with the information that I'm providing, and with all your own tools and skills. So, oh, Rose wants to play. Yeah, please.
Here's the deal. I don't know if I can get the proper sound on here, but I will give it a try.
Okay.
Doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I was inspired by your minor, because I'm not usually a minor person, but I'm on my double, and so I have let's see, just a moment here. Okay.
Can you like spotlight her or something?
Yes.
Can you hear it? Can you hear it?
Do you have your original sound on?
Well, that's my problem. I don't think I can find it. I'm on my iPad.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not coming, is it? It's not working.
Oh, just no, play what you got.
Okay.
Go to more, and then it might be under there.
Go to more. Okay, wait a minute. I've got more. Okay, click on more. Okay, I see apps, meeting settings.
Meeting settings.
Okay, I'm going to look at meeting settings. You guys are great for helping me with this. Okay, it says meetings. Always show meetings control. No. Touch up. No. Appearance. Nope. Portrait. Nope. Show name. Nope. Show non-video participant. Nope. Show self video. Nope. Stop incoming video. Show my connected time. None of those seem to fit the bill, do they? It used to be under there, I thought. Did they change that?
They changed it. So
On my computer.
My whole Zoom thing is different than it was yesterday, but it's still on. Mine is on my iPad. It's under more,
Yeah.
and it just says original sound on or off.
Darn. Yeah, and that's what it should say.
Yeah,
here.
same
You
for
guys-
me. I
yeah.
don't have it either.
Can't hear that.
You don't, under audio settings, you don't have anything like original sound? Rose?
I looked in there too. And so I think I might just have to save it. I'm really upset because I would like to. It's not often I have the gumption to do this.
no, just play what you got. We'll hear what you got.
Can you hear it though?
A little bit, yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll try it. Okay. Wow, what's that? I hear somebody else. Who's that?
Oh,
It
that
was
might
Dennis.
be.
Sorry, I thought I had my mic off.
Sounded good though. Probably better than what I was doing. I couldn't hear what I was doing. So that's that, guys. I'm gonna have to figure that one out.
So Rose, would
Yes.
it be under audio or at the top if you hover at the top of your screen, or would it be at the bottom under audio?
I'm looking at the bottom.
Audio
and
settings?
Audio
I
setting.
don't know, but
No, I don't think it says
Okay.
audio settings. There's a
Okay.
little marker that shows, like now. I'm gonna have to
Okay.
go back into the settings in the original part of this, I think, to find out. Thank you all, though. I'm gonna check this out. This is crazy.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so in some iPads and iPhones, you have to set the original sound before you come on the Zoom meeting.
I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is. Yeah, I'll be prepared next time. I didn't know I'd have the courage.
I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad you did.
You're so good, though. Yeah,
I
thanks.
can
Yeah.
hear a little bit of it, and it was really pretty. I
Did
want to
you?
hear some more.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, probably not right now, though.
But I encourage you to make some recordings. This is also something that should be part of your pantry.
Yeah.
Is that you record yourself, because you'll play things that you're like, oh my gosh, that's great. And then you can't remember it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you feel really brave, post it to the group. Post it to the
Oh.
Facebook group.
Oh, I had put a question in the questions before. With your cookbook, are you going to have any MP3 recordings of any music that you have?
Yes.
Oh, that would be so great because I have trouble seeing the music, with my eyes.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
I do
great.
videos and recordings and all kinds of
Oh, this
juicy
is going
stuff
to be
that's going.
great. So when is your date, do you think?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm gonna say maybe by summer.
Okay.
If I set a deadline, then you guys can hold me to it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. June, yes.
So real quick, I asked earlier, you didn't see it. So the pentatonic scale that we had tonight, why is the tonal center G and not D or one of the other notes?
Ooh. Let's
Because
see.
like if
I
I
don't know.
start on D, is the tonal center D?
Let's see. I might have to defer to Candace on this one. She might know better than I do.
Well, the way you were describing it when you were playing, you've got a set of chords that you can use, and so that kind of implies where the tonal center is. Like with starting on G and then the pentatonic, we've got several things that we can call the key of G without leaving everything out. But if we were to try to call D home base, let's say, we'd find that it kept shifting around because we didn't have that, like, no triads really. If we're just playing the white notes and then that's our choice, we'd have to reset the F and then we'd be playing the F and then so that is, it's kind of implied harmony so that we have, one being the name of the key and then 5, the fifth note, that we can do something with that, and maybe 4 that we can do something with that, which we can with G, and we can't with the other things there. I was noodling around with that, trying to think how I would answer your question.
Original sound. If you don't see that, then
Uh-oh.
you're going to have to enable it instead.
Oh, stress. Anyway, that if that helps a little bit, I think we need more than one key name or a couple of notes to infer some sort of tonal structure to it.
I would think it has something to do too with the whole steps and half steps.
Yes.
Right? Because like in the typical scales, that's where our scales are from, where we have the whole steps and half steps.
And that's where that little class that I was talking about could be kind of mind-bending and interesting. And when I try to describe the things that Cheryl Ann talks about without having dug into it extra deep, I can't say it very well, but it does have to do with the whole steps and half steps. But if you go all the way back, then there's some other things to it. We're not talking about triads. We're not even talking whole steps, half steps. And we don't even have 6 sets of notes, let's say, within one of the modes. Anyway, that's just to whet your appetite, because it's crazy complicated and I'm not going to go any farther.
If you do a little Googling around on what is a pentatonic scale, you'll find, I think, that there are several definitions, but in this case, it's the first note, the second note, the third note, you skip the fourth note, play the fifth note, the sixth note, skip the seventh note. If we tried to do that, I think this is what Candace was saying. If we tried to do that with D, we do the first note, the second note, we'd have to have an F sharp to make that third note work, skip the fourth note, play the fifth note, the sixth note. So you could do it. So but that's just one type of pentatonic scale. Penta meaning 5.
That helps. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. I hope that's helpful. Well, thanks for staying extra long tonight, you guys. I appreciate it. And we'll be back together in 2 weeks on the 28th. And we'll do some more playing. And I like to answer questions. I like to know what you'd like to learn. So please send me notes, comment on the Facebook page, send me a carrier pigeon. It's kind of cold. It might get a little cold, but you can send a carrier pigeon with a little down jacket on.
I just wanted to make sure you're going to send the link only on Facebook then, not in our emails.
I'll send things out in email also.
Okay, good. Great.
Yeah. If you're on the email list, then you'll get that from me as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Mwah! So good to have you here. I will see you all out there in internet land and back here in 2 weeks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Night.
Bye-bye.